Dr. Kurashin had been a xenobiologist for 73 cycles, specializing in human physiology and behavior. In all that time, she'd learned to read the subtle signs of her human colleagues, the micro-expressions, the body language, the tiny vocal inflections that betrayed emotions they tried to hide. Her species, the Velthari, possessed naturally enhanced sensory capabilities that made them exceptional at detecting physiological changes in other beings. Which is why she knew, the moment Dr. James Mitchell walked into the research station's medical bay on Outpost Kepler 452, that something was catastrophically wrong. "Good morning, Dr. Mitchell," she greeted him, her silver skin shimmering with patterns of professional courtesy. Her violet eyes, however, tracked every movement he made with increasing concern. "Morning, Kira," James replied, his voice carefully neutral. Too neutral. He moved to his workstation and began reviewing overnight data with the kind of intense focus that suggested he was actively avoiding something. Kurashin's sensory tendrils, delicate appendages that extended from behind her ears, trembled slightly as they detected anomalies in James's biochemistry. His heart rate was elevated. His body temperature was 1.3 degrees above his baseline. His respiratory pattern was shallow and controlled, and there was something else. A chemical signature in his sweat that her species associated with severe stress or pain. "James," she said carefully, moving closer, "you are displaying physiological markers of distress. Are you unwell?" "I'm fine," he said without looking up. "Just tired, didn't sleep well." It was a lie. Kurashin had spent enough time around humans to recognize their tells, and James was practically broadcasting his deception. But before she could press further, he stood abruptly, too abruptly, she noted, as he briefly gripped the edge of the table to steady himself. "I need to check the atmospheric processors," he announced, already moving toward the door. "The readings from Sector 7 were inconsistent last night. James, those processors are automated. There is no need." But he was already gone, the door sliding shut behind him. Kurashin stood alone in the medical bay, her sensory tendrils now fully extended in agitation. Something was very wrong. Humans were naturally inclined to hide pain and injury, some misguided evolutionary remnant of their predator-prey past. But James's level of concealment suggested something serious. She pulled up his recent medical scans on her data pad. Everything appeared normal. But the scans were 3 weeks old. He'd canceled his last 2 appointments with vague excuses about being too busy. Her violet eyes narrowed. She'd been studying humans for 7 decades. She knew their tricks. It was time to find out what James Mitchell was hiding. Over the next 2 days, Kurashin observed James with the focused intensity that had made her one of the galaxy's foremost experts on human behavior. What she discovered alarmed her greatly. He was sleeping at his workstation. She'd found him there twice, slumped over his desk in the early morning hours. He was skipping meals, claiming he wasn't hungry despite the fact that his body clearly needed nutrition. He'd started favoring his left side when he walked, a subtle limp that he tried to disguise. And yesterday, she'd noticed him taking some kind of pills from an unmarked container in his quarters. But most concerning was what she detected with her enhanced senses. His pain markers were escalating. Whatever was wrong with him was getting worse. On the 3rd day, she found him in the greenhouse, the station's agricultural dome where they grew food for the small research team. He was kneeling beside a bed of tomatoes, ostensibly checking the irrigation system, but Kurashin could see his hands trembling. "James Mitchell," she said firmly, using his full name in the way she'd learned indicated seriousness among humans. "I need you to tell me the truth. What have you done?" He looked up at her, surprise flickering across his face before his expression closed down again. "What are you talking about? Do not insult my intelligence." Kurashin moved closer, her silver skin now displaying patterns of deep concern, swirling purples and blues that any Velthari would recognize as the colors of worried affection. "I have been observing you. Your heart rate has been elevated for 3 consecutive days. Your body temperature fluctuates between fever and normal ranges. You are experiencing significant pain. I can detect the stress hormones in your system. You have lost approximately 4 kilograms in 2 weeks, and you are taking medication that is not prescribed in your medical file." James stood slowly, using the irrigation frame for support. "Kira, I appreciate the concern, but I'm handling it." "Handling what?" Her voice took on an edge of frustration. "What have you done? Did you injure yourself, contract some pathogen, make contact with toxic substances in the field?" "It's not." He stopped, seeming to struggle with what to say. "It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it," Kurashin demanded. "I am a medical doctor specializing in human physiology. Whatever is happening to you, I can help, but only if you tell me the truth." For a long moment, James just stared at her. Then slowly the careful control he'd been maintaining crumbled. His shoulders sagged. His expression shifted from guarded to exhausted, and when he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I need you to promise me something first." "What?" "Promise me you won't tell the station commander or Earth Command or anyone else on this station." Kurashin's sensory tendrils retracted slightly, a gesture of confusion. "James, if you are seriously ill, promise me, Kira, please." There was something in his voice, a desperate edge that made her chest constrict with worry. In 73 cycles of working with humans, she'd never heard one of them sound quite like this. "I promise," she said carefully, "but you must tell me everything." James nodded and began rolling up his right sleeve. What Kurashin saw made her breath catch, something her species only did in moments of extreme emotional response. His forearm was covered in a geometric pattern of scars. They were surgical scars, precise and deliberate, forming a lattice that extended from his wrist to his elbow. And beneath the scars, she could see something moving, subtle shifts in the tissue that suggested something foreign beneath the skin. "What? What is that?" Kurashin whispered. "About 3 months ago," James began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands, "we were exploring the ruins in Sector 12. You remember the pre-contact civilization site we've been excavating?" Kurashin nodded. It had been a fascinating discovery, evidence of a spacefaring species that had gone extinct thousands of years before humanity even developed agriculture. "I found something in one of the deeper chambers," James continued. "A device. It looked like some kind of medical technology, maybe a healing tool or diagnostic equipment. I should have brought it back to the lab for analysis. I should have followed protocol." "But you did not," Kurashin stated, already understanding where this was going. "I was curious," James admitted. "It activated when I picked it up, started scanning me, I think, and then it integrated with me, injected something into my arm before I could react. By the time I got it off me, the damage was done." He pulled up a holographic display from his personal data pad, showing medical scans he'd apparently been taking in secret. Kurashin studied them with growing horror. The something that had been injected was a network of microscopic machines, nanites, spreading through his tissue in organized patterns. But these weren't like any nanomachines she'd seen before. They were integrating with his cellular structure, rewriting his biology at the molecular level. "James," she breathed, "how long have you been hiding this?" 83 days. It started slow, just some discomfort, minor inflammation. But over the past 2 weeks, it's accelerated. The nanites are spreading faster. My entire right arm is now compromised, and I'm starting to detect them in my shoulder and chest. Why did you not seek medical attention immediately? Kurashin demanded, her skin flashing with colors of anger and fear. This could be lethal, you could be. Because if I'd reported it, Earth Command would have quarantined me. James interrupted, his voice hard. They would have isolated me in a containment facility, run tests for months or years trying to understand the technology. And if they couldn't figure out how to remove it safely, they would have killed me to prevent contamination risk. Kurashin wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Human military protocols regarding unknown alien technology were ruthlessly practical. If a contamination couldn't be contained or cured, it was eliminated. So instead, you decided to die alone on a research station, she asked, her voice breaking slightly. James, we are friends. How could you not trust me with this? I didn't want you to become complicit, James said quietly. If you knew and didn't report it, you'd be violating about a dozen regulations. I couldn't do that to you. And I am supposed to stand by and watch you suffer. Kurashin's eyes blazed with emotion. That is not how friendship works, you foolish human. Despite everything, James smiled weakly. I've been called worse. Kurashin forced herself to take a deep breath, her training reasserting itself. Show me everything. All your scans, all your symptoms, every piece of data you have collected. If we are going to fix this, I need complete information. Kira, I don't think it can be fixed. I've been researching for 3 months and I can't find any way to stop the spread or remove the nanites without killing myself in the process. Then it is fortunate, Kurashin said firmly, that you have been researching alone. I am one of the foremost experts on human physiology in the galaxy, and I have access to Velthari medical databases that your species has not yet been granted. Together, we will find a solution. And if we can't, then we will face that reality when it comes. But I will not allow you to give up without a fight, James Mitchell. Humans are supposed to be the stubborn species that never surrenders. So stop surrendering and start fighting. For the next 72 hours, Kurashin and James worked in secret in the medical bay. She'd told the station commander that she was conducting classified research on human adaptation to the planet's environment, a believable enough cover given her specialty. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The nanites weren't designed to kill, they were designed to enhance. The extinct civilization had apparently developed medical technology that could upgrade biological systems, healing injuries and improving physical capabilities. But the technology had been designed for their physiology, not human biology. It is trying to fix you, Kurashin explained, studying the latest scans. It has identified various aspects of human biology that it considers deficient: limited healing capacity, vulnerability to disease, relatively short lifespan, and it is attempting to correct these problems. By rewriting my DNA, James said flatly. Precisely. But because you are not the species it was designed for, the corrections are causing massive cellular damage. Your immune system is fighting the changes, which is causing the inflammation and pain. And as more nanites are produced, the conflict intensifies. So I'm being killed by a well-intentioned medical device that thinks it's helping me. Essentially, yes. James laughed bitterly. That's the most human way to die I've ever heard of. Kurashin's skin flashed with colors of amusement despite the serious situation. It is rather ironic, but I believe I have found something. She pulled up a new set of data, comparative analysis between the extinct civilization's biology and human biology. The nanites are programmed to achieve specific biological markers. If we can convince them that you have already achieved these markers, they might cease their modifications and enter a dormant state. How do we convince machines I'm something I'm not? By temporarily altering your biochemistry to match their target parameters, Kurashin explained. The Velthari have developed medical techniques for treating cross-species contamination that might work here, but I must warn you, the treatment will be extremely painful and potentially dangerous. There is a 37% chance of catastrophic organ failure. What are my chances if we do nothing? Death within 2 weeks, certainty 100%. James considered this for barely a second. 37% beats 0%. Let's do it. The treatment took 19 hours and nearly killed James 3 times. Kurashin administered a cocktail of Velthari medical compounds designed to temporarily alter his cellular chemistry, making his biology appear to match the nanite's target parameters. As she'd warned, the process was agonizing. His body fought against the foreign substances even as the nanites responded to the apparent success of their modifications. "Stay with me, James," Kurashin urged, monitoring his vital signs as they fluctuated wildly. "Your heart rate is dropping too low. I need you to focus on breathing, in and out. Stay conscious." "Trying," James gasped, his entire body trembling. "Not very good at it." "You are doing excellently. Humans are remarkably resilient. Just a few more hours." By hour 15, the nanites had begun entering dormant mode, their programming satisfied that their patient had achieved optimal biological markers. But James's body was in crisis. The Velthari compounds were toxic to humans in high doses, and she'd had to use massive amounts to convince the nanites. At hour 17, his heart stopped. Kurashin had prepared for this. Her hands moved with practiced precision, administering the human cardiac stimulant she'd synthesized from the medical Bayes databases. "Do not you dare die on me, James Mitchell," she hissed, her skin blazing with colors of desperate fear. "I did not violate 73 regulations to lose you now." His heart restarted. By hour 19, the nanites were fully dormant, and Kurashin began flushing the Velthari compounds from his system. James drifted in and out of consciousness, his body exhausted beyond measure. "Kira," he mumbled at one point, "did it work?" "Yes," she said, allowing herself to display colors of relief and joy. "The nanites are dormant. They will remain in your system, but they are no longer active. You will live, you impossibly stubborn human." "Told you, humans don't surrender." He managed a weak smile before unconsciousness claimed him. James woke 36 hours later to find Kurashin sitting beside his bed in the medical bay, her sensory tendrils extended in a gesture of watchful care. Her skin was displaying colors of exhaustion, dim grays and muted blues, but when she saw him wake, they brightened immediately. "Welcome back," she said softly. "How do you feel?" "Like I was hit by a shuttle," James croaked. "But alive, definitely alive." "The nanites are dormant," Kurashin reported. "I will need to monitor you closely for the next several weeks to ensure they remain inactive, but initial scans suggest the treatment was successful. You will carry their network in your tissue permanently, but they should cause no further harm." James looked at his right arm. The scars were still there, but the strange movement beneath his skin had stopped. "You saved my life. You nearly ended your life by being foolish," Kurashin countered, though her tone was gentle. "In the future, when you find mysterious alien technology, perhaps do not immediately experiment on yourself with it." "Yeah, probably a good policy," James agreed. "Kira, thank you. I know what you risked to help me. If anyone finds out you treated me without authorization, used Velthari medical techniques on a human, and concealed a potential contamination event." "They will not find out," Kurashin interrupted. "I have altered the medical logs to show that you developed a severe allergic reaction to a local plant species and required emergency treatment. All of the unauthorized compounds have been removed from the station's inventory records. As far as anyone else knows, you simply had a very bad week. You thought of everything." "I am a scientist," she said with colors of pride. "Attention to detail is my specialty. Although I must admit, covering up a human's foolish mistakes is not typically part of my job description." James laughed, then winced as the movement pulled at still healing tissue. "I really am sorry for putting you in this position." "Do not apologize," Kurashin said firmly. "Just promise me that in the future, if something is wrong, you will tell me immediately. No more hiding, no more secrets. We are friends, James. That means we face problems together. Even when those problems involve illegal alien nanites." "Especially then," she confirmed. "Although I would prefer if future problems involved less risk of death." "I'll do my best," James promised. Then more seriously, "Kira, why did you help me? You could have reported me to the authorities. You could have let them handle it. Instead, you risked your career, your reputation, everything. Why?" Kurashin's skin displayed colors that James had learned to recognize, soft golds and gentle silvers that indicated deep affection. "Because in 73 cycles of studying humans, I have learned something important about your species. You are loyal to the people you care about, often to the point of foolishness. You help your friends even when it is inconvenient, even when it is dangerous. I have spent my life observing humans. I thought it was time I learned to act like one." James felt unexpected emotion welling up in his chest. "Well, you did a pretty good job of it." "I had excellent teachers," Kurashin replied. "Now rest. You have 3 weeks of recovery ahead of you, and I will be monitoring every moment of it. And James, yeah, if you ever hide something this serious from me again, I will personally inform Earth Command myself. Are we clear?" "Crystal clear," James smiled. "No more secrets." "Good, now sleep. Doctor's orders." As James drifted back to sleep, Kurashin remained at his bedside, her sensory tendrils extended in the Velthari gesture of protective vigilance. She had broken numerous regulations, risked her professional standing, and nearly lost a friend in the process. But she would do it again in a heartbeat. because she'd finally understood what her 73 cycles of studying humans had been trying to teach her. Some things were more important than rules: friendship, loyalty, trust. And sometimes the right thing to do was the wrong thing by every regulation and protocol, especially when it meant saving someone who mattered.